In the absence of new federal voting protections, the courts may be the final gatekeeper of democracy. Federal judges in Alabama yesterday ruled Republicans illegally discriminated against black voters when they crafted the state's congressional map last year. Lawmakers violated Section 2 of the Voting Rights Act by handicapping black voters' ability to elect candidates of their choice, the judges ruled. After collapsing as many black voters as possible into a single congressional district, lawmakers must now redraw that map with 2 majority black districts within 14 days, or else the court will appoint a special master to do it for them. The ruling in Alabama comes only 2 weeks after justices in Ohio's Supreme Court struck down a congressional map that handed power to Republicans. The map was, quote, infused with undue partisan bias, the judge's opinions reads. This is not what Ohio voters wanted or expected. The court also gave state lawmakers 30 days to go back to the drawing board. In North Carolina and Texas, congressional maps are entangled in legal battles as well. Lawsuits in both states allege the maps are discriminatory to Black and Latino voters, despite Republicans saying that they drew districts with a race-blind approach. Today, a federal judge in Texas heard oral arguments in one of the multiple challenges to the state's redistricting plan. Like so many other states, the fate of democracy hangs in the balance. Joining me now to discuss, Michael Lee, Senior Counsel of the Democracy Program for the Brennan Center, and Danielle Brown, Deputy National Field Director for Black Voters Matter. Mr. Lee, when the voting rights protections failed in the Senate last week, we heard both the administration, politicians, and activists say, what we're doing now is we keep fighting, and one way that we keep fighting is we fight in the courts. At least on this measure, which is redistricting, they're seeing some successes. What do you make of what's happening in the courts as it relates to redistricting?
Well, certainly, like in America, we have a long tradition of drawing maps and then fighting about them because the abuses that we're seeing this cycle are nothing new. Black and Latino and Asian voters have long been discriminated against in map drawing, and so there have long been legal fights, and there will be again this decade. And the heartening news is that courts, some of the abuses are so aggressive that even panels that consist of 2 Trump judges and a judge initially appointed by Ronald Reagan, as the panel in Alabama was, had to strike down the map in order to be redrawn. I mean, that's how aggressive these abuses are. And similarly, maps in Texas and North Carolina are very aggressively drawn to discriminate against communities of color who provided almost all of the growth in both states. And so, it certainly is heartening, but at the same time, these ultimately will be reviewed by the Supreme Court, which has gotten more conservative. It's more skeptical about race-based claims. And so it remains to be seen whether, there's significant headwinds, and it remains to be seen, how much relief you can get. But at least this is a good start.
So Danielle, at least we see some traction in the early going. As Michael points out, we don't know how it's going to end up. We don't know if these lawsuits will prevail or not. But what we do see is that we don't see the same amount of success and traction on the voter suppression side of the scale. What do you make of that?
We continue to, when the work that's being done on the ground, the continuous fight that we continually bringing people to the forefront, these maps that we're seeing. I live in the state of North Carolina, the gerrymandering state of it all, when it's all said and done. But in the state of North Carolina, we are seeing how continuous pressure around what really truly matters about the groundwork, what's happening on the ground, what's taking place from the ground up, and how it's working from that ground up, how it's working, how we are seeing that people are really taking essence of looking at what these maps look like, and ultimately hoping that we will continue to see them look at voter suppression the same way, tying this into how this relates to voter suppression, what these maps are doing to field that voter suppression, to help to fuel the voter suppression. That is what we're looking at. Those are the things that we're bringing to that forefront to help continue with that fight, so that there's an understanding and there's a correlation between the two. because you don't, without these maps, without fair maps, we don't have fair elections. We have nothing but a continuous fuel of voter suppression, and a continuous fuel of these voter suppression laws that are on the books that we actually that don't see any headway when we're talking about the true rights of democracy, when we're talking about the true rights of being a part of what we are standing for in our everyday walk against this fight against voter suppression.
Michael, so in Texas, the maps are facing litigation, but early voting starts next month in Texas. In Ohio, if lawmakers fail to redraw the maps in 30 days, then the responsibility goes to the Ohio Redistricting Commission for another 30 days, but candidates have to file paperwork by March 4th for the primaries. It seems like, the courts work slower, but there's a political map, a political calendar that is set. How does this all work out?
Yeah, there really is a bit of a traffic jam this time because, redistricting started later than it normally would because the census data came out later because of the pandemic. And so everything has been time crunched. And unfortunately, many states sort of took advantage of the delay by using that as an excuse to rush everything and leave less time for litigation. But there still is an option, in Ohio, for example, the Supreme Court could order the state to move the primary to a later date or to adjust the filing periods. That happens. In Texas, the parties have conceded that, it's probably best to try to argue for changes for 2024, that, there will be a trial in Texas at the end of September, and the court is expected to rule by the end of the year or sometime thereafter. But the claims are really complicated. There's so many things going on in Texas. They thought it's better to have a full trial and have the court really rule on the full record, and so that's what they're doing there. And so changes in Texas won't happen for 2022, but in other states they still could, if courts are willing to move the primaries and or states are. And so that's a possibility. But it is a real risk. Because this legislation did not pass in Congress, there's a real risk that in a lot of states, voters will vote on laws on maps that are not that ultimately may be struck down, and that's unfortunate because they will have lost their right of representation really for the cycle.
So Danielle, you're an organizer. How do you keep the targets of these suppressive bills, subversive bills in some cases, from being demoralized? How do we keep the strength, the encouragement, the motivation to get those people to register and to vote, knowing that people are trying to suppress that vote, knowing that Congress refused to protect those votes?
We go out every single day, even in delayed primaries. We're seeing delayed primaries already across the board. We're seeing how elections across the board are already being affected. We have to stay up on what those dates are. We have to stay up on what that education is. And it's a continuous education. It's not just during the election cycle. It's 365. It's what we talk about all the time. It's what we push for all the time. It's not just when it's time to go to the polls. It's before that. We're preparing people. We're constantly talking to people. We're constantly looking at the issues that people are bringing to the forefront that's on the ground, the people that this truly affects, the communities that these affect, the communities that are going through, hey, look, I had a polling precinct across the street and it's no longer there anymore. Why is it no longer there? Having those one-on-one conversations, really digging into the communities and talking to those folks and encouraging them and letting them know, hey, look, it might not be right there, but let's figure out what that plan is going to look like. Let's figure out if we're going to take in some rides to the polls, if we're masking people up, making sure we have the things that we need in our communities to continuously push our folks not only to go register, but to actually go vote and to stand in their actual democracy.
Danielle Brown, please keep getting people out to vote. Michael Lee, thank you for both of you for joining me tonight. I appreciate your time.